Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be joining. Thanks so much for stopping by and hanging out with us. So today my co-host, Heather, she is actually not feeling well. So I got a text that she's not gonna be able to make it today, which is fine because I'm used to doing these things solo at times as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and rock this topic that we have today on my own. But if you're here live and you want to jump in and ask questions and engage, that would be helpful. So otherwise this might go a little bit fast. But the topic for today is, let me scroll up and say it right to my notes. All right, so we're talking about the follow-up gap and why most leads don't respond and what actually re-engages them. Oh, I just saw Heather might actually be here. Hold on one second. Let's see if she's actually feeling up for this. Heather, are you coming in just to watch? Are you coming in to co-host here?
I am trying, girl.
You do not need to. You go rest.
Oh my gosh. This is so bad.
No, don't feel bad. Don't worry. I can rock this. We're good. And we can always like get your thoughts in 2 weeks when you are feeling better. So we can do that.
I appreciate you, girl. Oh my
Mm,
god.
You're fine. Just go rest, bro.
I'm gonna set this off, but I'll still listen.
Okay, you do that. All right.
Hear me.
You can also type in the chat if you want to add something, but that way you don't have to like be on camera and all that. Okay, so yes, we're talking about the follow-up gap. And so a lot of agents today are running into an issue. If they are following up with their leads, they're not getting much engagement. So I mean, most agents don't really follow up with their leads the way that an ISA does, or the way that Heather and I do, or our teams or anything like that. But for the ones that are consistently reaching out to their prospects, they usually find, in especially in this current market, that there is some kind of gap between, how much they're following up and like how much they're receiving back. So a lot of agents are feeling ghosted right now. I know that Heather and I can definitely relate to that in some ways, but we're going to talk about ways to re-engage them. This is some things that I've seen that will help to get engagement back on your side. Um, and we'll just talk about, why they don't respond and what's going on. And we can speculate, but we're going to try to, you know, not speculate too much. Everybody's different. Things happen. We all know that, right? So, and one other thing that I will say, since I heard this somewhere, but it really is my mindset in things. I try to anyway. I can't say that I'm always positive about everything, but one of my newest mottos, or like not new, but like one of the things that I heard that I've adopted because it is how I feel, is to always assume the best. Okay, don't assume the worst. So if somebody cuts you off in traffic, assume that they're on their way, like they're in labor, right? Instead of assuming that they're just being an asshole. Or if I don't know, if you get hung up on, for example, just assume that it disconnected, they had bad cell service, rather than they hate you and never want to talk to you, right? So that's kind of what I want to preface this with, so that we can have a positive outlook. So we're going to talk about it and get into it, but with a positive view, then you are more likely to not take things personally, and understand and empathize with the people that you're contacting. And I'm sure all of us have been on the other side of a sales person trying to reach us. If you've ever gone car shopping and then not bought the car, oh my goodness, you guys probably know. And sorry, my eyelashes are driving me nuts. And they're getting filled today, but so if I keep doing this, it's because I feel like one is like hitting my eye. And I had a reaction to a medication that made me really itchy, and so like it's just, this eye is just not not happening right now. Anywho, okay, so let's see. Let's talk about why people are not responding. Is it that they're not interested? Does no response equal not interested? No. that's not the way it is. There's lots of reasons why somebody might not respond. Obviously, they could be busy at the time. I've been one of those people. You get a text and it's an interesting text. Maybe it's a long text and you want to read it, but you're in the middle of something or something is going on, and then you get sidetracked and then you completely forget about it. And now it's already been read, so it's off your radar, and then you don't know, and it looks like you just left somebody on read, but that could be the case, right? So that's why consistent follow-up is really important so that you can re-engage them at the right time when they are able to have a discussion with you. And it's not just through text. Obviously, Heather and I make calls. We're trying to reach people many different ways. And then as far as like my clients go, they're also setting up campaigns, so email drip campaigns and that sort of thing that are going on in the background while I'm still trying to reach them via phone and text message. Okay, so even if you're doing everything right with your follow-up, you still might get ghosted. So if that's the case, I just want to let you know that it's really kind of the norm right now, and don't take it as a personal failure. Okay. Don't think that this is like I said, don't frame this as something personal. Don't frame it as something that like has anything to do with you, because it really doesn't. And just to share a little story, because I like to share the weird calls that I have. I had one of the strangest calls ever recently. Now, I told you guys about the banana now and later. So if you haven't found that one, you guys should go find that episode in a previous podcast. But um that was also a very strange one. But I wasn't even the one that was on that call, but my client was, and I heard the recording. But anyways, so I had a guy recently. I called, and the name that I had was like Jane. And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, because it was clearly a male voice, but I don't want to assume anything." So I'm like, "Oh, I'm trying to reach Jane. Maybe I have the wrong number, right?" And he says, "No." Okay. And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, I believe that you requested this info, da 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 da." And he says, "You need to slow down." I said, "Okay." So I said it very slowly. And he goes, "Your name is Sara." And he's like, he's writing it down. And I'm like weirded out at this point of what's going on. Right. And, and he's writing down the name of the person that I work for, my client. This doesn't bother me any because I don't do cold calls or anything like that. I only work with one-to-one consent. So I'm not breaking any laws. I'm not, doing anything wrong. But regardless, he then proceeds to tell me, "I'm going to try to be nice about this." And then he says, "I am not Jane." And then he goes off on me. Like he's like, "And you people have called me every day for 2 weeks." Mind you, I got his information less than a day ago. So this was the first time I had ever called him. "You people keep calling and texting me and calling me Jane, and I'm not Jane." And I said, well, I let him go on his rant for a little bit until he got very rude and started being even more like, you know, he's just going off. And I know he's going off on a tangent that doesn't even apply, because I'm like, he seems to think that we want to bother him and call him Jane. And like, it's us that's doing something. And so I'm like, "Excuse me, sir, just so you know, Jane is using your phone number to sign up for these things. Okay. It's not me that wants to call you." And then I kind of sassily said, "Do you remember the first question I asked you was, is this Jane?" And then, so then he was mad. Then he was mad, mad, big mad because I said that. And he goes, "Well, how am I going to get your info if I don't, whatever?" And I said, "You catch more flies with honey than vinegar, sir." You know what I mean? And I would share this recording if I didn't think he was absolutely going to sue me. But, um, but I thought it was a funny recording though, because I'm like, wow, he really like he did try to stay calm and cool. And so then I was trying to help him and be like, "Hey, this is what happened. Don't be mad at me," right? Like, Jane is the one that you want to be mad at. Well, that didn't really work out either, because now he wants Jane's info, like her full name. And so at that point, I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, but I'm not going to get caught up in that. So I was like, "I've got to go, like, so I was like, 'I'm sorry, sir, I can't help you.'" And he's yelling at me still. So I just hang up on him. He calls back like 10 times in a row. I didn't even listen to any of the voicemails he left me. So then I had to block his number. But there are some things that we go through, that we're like, oh, that could easily be reframed. But in my mind, that guy is just not in a good place. And I was trying to help, like, hey, this isn't me. You should be mad at Jane. Well, deflecting that way, unless I'm going to give him Jane's info, which maybe I should have, I don't know, but I didn't want to cross any lines. I didn't know. But Jane is out there giving his info, so shoot. Anyways, I didn't give him her last name, but I'm sure the next person that calls probably might, but he's gonna have to be a little bit nicer. But anyways, the point is that even in that situation where I'm being completely like berated for something and I'm just trying to help the guy so that he can understand how to get around this in the future. I'm like, if you reply stop, like I'm telling him all the little tricks, but he's just yelling at me. So there it is. But I find it funny. Like, I'm like, wow. And then I'm like kind of sad for him because I'm like, well, I could have helped you, but you chose to be kind of a jerk, not kind of, but a lot. So there we have it. So, anyways, the point is, you guys try to reframe it. Don't let it be personal. Don't let that scare you either, because those calls are so few and far between. I know I've shared some weird calls and whatnot, but um, we're sharing the worst of the worst. Just to give you guys an idea of what it might be like. Don't think that that's what's going to happen. Okay. Okay, so what I want to talk about though, other than that, is that it's pretty normal right now to not get a response. So the old ways that we used to follow up with double dials and not leaving voicemails and like just completely attacking it. That's at least not my way of doing it. And if Heather were on here, maybe she would have a different perspective because we are very different about how we do things. So um we can talk about that another time. But um right now it's not about doing things, it's not about doing it like, okay, it's not quantity over quality, it's quality over quantity. So don't do more, just do things differently. Do them in a way that is value driven, do them in a way that is understanding and empathetic, and then you're going to be able to tie things together. And sometimes you'll find that you can talk the Jane guy out from the ledge, and you'll find that, okay, now he's like, oh, thank you so much. A lot of times in those situations they will listen to me and they'll be like, oh, so she's giving out my info, like. But by that time he was so big mad that there was no really way of calming him down, because then he felt silly, and now it's the thing. And instead of him just being like, oh, you know what, you're right, they're just need to reply stop, or just tell them, no, I'm sorry, this isn't Jay's number, or block the number, you know put your number on the do not call it. There's so many other things you can do. But anyways, I guess that wouldn't work because Jane gave one-to-one consent. I wonder how that would work. Let's not go down that road. Okay, let's get back to the meat of this. So why do the leads go silent? All right. Let's talk about the psychology of it. A lot of it is decision fatigue, right? There's too many options, there's too much info, especially in this day and age. I am fortunate to have never had to date in this current climate, but I do know that for everyone that is dating in this world right now that we live in, there are so many options. You can just swipe, and if you go on a date and you like, if they smell funny, you can go find someone else. Like, there's so many options. So, that might be an issue. There might be just too many options for the buyer. There might be too many options for the seller on what to do, and it just might be overwhelming, right? They may have a fear of commitment. Now, this all sounds like I'm talking about relationships, but this is a relationship when you're trying to sell somebody's house or when you're trying to help somebody buy a house. So, but yeah, sometimes when they reply, it feels like they're saying yes to something, or they're like, you know, committing to something, and they don't want to do that yet. They want to just get the info. They just want to analyze from the sidelines. They want to do their, homework, or like sit back and like let it not be that intense. Because once they reply, now you bump them up a level on your follow-up, right? And now you're like, okay, now you said, yeah, I'm interested. And now it's going to be like, okay, hey, how can we help you? How, blah, 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 right? And if they're not sitting there going, okay, yeah, I want this, 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 and this, right? and I'm ready to do all this, then it can be overwhelming for them. Another factor would be trust erosion from over marketing, right? So they may feel like you're just bombarding them with things, and it's just, you know, going to be something that maybe they don't trust you. Maybe you're too busy. Maybe they don't like your marketing. I don't know. Maybe there could be any number of reasons, but that's why you got to call in the alignment. Call in aligned buyers and sellers, call in aligned clients. And this is something that I do every day before I make my calls. And I've talked about it before, but I sit and I envision myself as like a beacon of light. And I envision like aligned, like calling in aligned buyers, aligned sellers, aligned clients. Um, the people that are ready, willing, and able to transact, right? Not just ready but not able to transact, which is a lot of times you'll get those people too. They're like, yeah, I want to buy a house, but they're totally uh, wishful thinking. Like I had a guy once that requested a tour of a $2 million home to ask if he could rent it for $1,400 a month. And that was an interesting conversation. Okay, so basically what you want to take the silence as instead of a rejection is just it's just a pause. It's just timing. And usually you can take them saying stop more as a like I'm not ready for this, right? So when somebody responds stop to a text message or something like that, that tells me, nope, this is I don't want to engage in this at all. If they're not responding, it just means they're not there yet, but they don't mind. At least this is the way I take it. Because after about 7 to 10 calls and texts, I should say, I will start to give my buyers and sellers an opportunity to opt out and tell me, um, if if they're not ready, right? Like, or like to say stop. I'll say, hey, it looked like 4 months ago, you were looking at homes in this area. If that's no longer the case, please reply stop. But there's about 7 to 9 text messages and calls before that are a little bit more like trying to engage a little bit more. But eventually I'm like, hey, I want to focus on the people that are hot, ready. That sounds like a Little Caesars ad. Hot and ready. You know what I'm talking about. So there you go. Okay. So people will disengage when they feel pushed or misunderstood. We just talked about that. All right, let's see what else we have here. Hold down. Okay, let's talk about what people think, like what we think versus what the buyers and sellers experience, what agents think versus what is being experienced on the other side. Okay, so let's contrast this. So agents think I'm being consistent. I'm staying top of mind. If I don't follow up, someone else will. At least agents should think this. I'm going to caveat this because ChatGPT is saying this, but I'm going to say the majority of agents think they'll call me if they want to work with me. So, so I would say the top agents that are good at follow up are the ones that are saying, thinking I'm being consistent. I'm staying top of mind. If I don't follow up, someone else will. And all of that is true. Okay. But what the buyers or sellers may experience, I'm not saying they all do, because there are those people that will be upset if you don't follow up with them and, will wonder why you didn't call them. Okay. So let's understand that we don't want to there's a happy medium. You don't want to go one extreme or the other, right? So what they're experiencing is maybe they feel rushed, or they don't even know how to respond. They might feel like it's a bot that they're responding to, instead of a real person. So I always try to things that a bot want to do, like add extra, like if I ask a question like, is this Heather? I put 2 question marks because I don't think a bot would do that, right? And then I'll say like, is this Heather? Question mark. This is Sara, dot, 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 or something like that. And that is also something I do with the iPhone update that happened a while ago. When you call from a number that is not saved in somebody's phone, it'll automatically pop up as spam likely on the call. Now, on the very first one. Now, if you send a text right after that and you say, my name is Sarah, hey there, hey Heather, my name is Sarah. I work with blah, 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 blah. And you do exactly what you just left a voicemail about, then the next time you call, and from every time they're on forward, unless they delete your conversation, um, it'll say maybe Sarah. And so that is a way that you can help get calls answered as well. Right? Little tricks of the trade. Okay. So they also might be feeling like this is very transactional. They might be feeling like they don't, they don't know what to say or how to say it because they're not ready. And they just, some people are so non-confrontational that they don't even want to tell you. Like I've had people tell me yes on the phone, but they really weren't really serious, but they just don't know how to say no. You always exercise your ability to say no and yes. Okay. So another thing that we should talk about is what is actually re-engaging people. So this is like the meat of what we do. So let's give you guys some hope, right? So one of the principles of engaging people or re-engaging people would be creating curiosity over a sense of urgency. When I used to sell, wasn't not selling, but when we used to rent apartments out, we would always have to create the sense of urgency that the apartment that they want. Oh, I might have 3 other offers on that apartment. You couldn't lie or anything, and I would never do that. But you would be like, it was like create a sense of urgency, if you have it there. And so that is not the way we want to do it nowadays. That is a very older tactic. And unless it's true, now don't get me wrong, because sometimes people want to sign up for my services, and it's true that I have people on my wait list, and there is a sense of urgency, and you have to decide. But for the people that you are trying to re-engage, curiosity is going to work better in more in your favor, and giving them something easy to respond to, right? Would also help. So if you were trying to generate curiosity, let's see, how would that look? Let's ask. I'm just curious how, I know how I would do it, but I want to see what it says and then I'll share it. But we're almost out of time. So I guess I used, this happens every time. I think I'm not going to use the time. How would generating curiosity look, sound, look and sound? Um, so it is saying, okay, you can name the pause without giving them any guilt. Okay, so that's kind of, I was thinking generating curiosity would be more like if you know that there is a house that they that is in their neighborhood that they had originally clicked on. Like if you know that they're looking at a certain type of house in a certain type of area and another one just came available, but the one that they originally were looking at is not available. That's generating curiosity because you're like, hey, look at this one, right? Hey, check it out. We got this for you. So what ChatGPT said is, I noticed things went quiet, which usually means timing or priorities shifted. I'm curious which one it was for you. And that's where I'm going back to giving them an easy way to respond. So you're giving them this or, like this or that, was it you went quiet because your timing shifted or your priorities shifted? Or was it something else? So this way they don't feel guilty for not getting back to you. It makes it easier to reply to you and it just normalizes the fact that, we know that what we do is a little strange and we're going to get a little bit of silence from people. Um, okay, so let's see. Another thing you could do is offer an observation. Say something like, a lot of people I talk to right now aren't stuck. They're just weighing more than one thing at once. Curious if that's true for you too. So this shows awareness. It feels relatable, and invites reflection and not defense. So those are some of those examples. I really wanted to see what it came up with. This. I was curious. It created curiosity for me. Oh, how funny. Okay, so the next thing is for re-engagement, permission-based language, which is literally what was just in those examples that we talked about. So you're giving them permission to say something, even if it is stop, at some point. And I would say for the agents who are much busier and still following up with leads, there's ways to weigh seriousness, right? And that's, don't feel bad if you need to focus on the people that are more serious. I'm not saying that you shouldn't call everyone, for a certain period of time or whatever. But if you feel like you've done your due diligence, and there's always ways to re-engage the buyer or the seller through other means that aren't a phone call or a text, right? So there's drip campaigns. So you could do that too. All right. So another re-engagement principle would be giving specific value over vague touch points. So that's like I was talking about with the home earlier. Like if you're going to send a specific home that's value to them because I have one guy who's been looking for 2 years and I follow up with him every once in a while. He literally wants one house on one street in one neighborhood. And it's like, I mean, there may be, I don't know, I guess it's not one house, but he wants a specific type of house on a specific street in a specific neighborhood that is a gated community that does not often come available. So there's nothing I can do other than just keep an eye on that. And if there's something that pops up in that area, then I have something that is enticing for him to uh to check out, right? So that's the only time I engage him. Otherwise, I learned my lesson. I'm like, don't send me anything else because he'd always push back and be like, I don't want anything other than on this street in this neighborhood. I was like, okay, understood. And that's where keeping good notes and all of that comes into. So we could definitely talk about that someday too. All right. Let's see what else. Another re-engagement principle, and this will be the last one because we are out of time, is going to be normalizing hesitation. So giving them that easy response, naming the pause without guilt, the easy out, right? And inviting them, not cornering them, not bullying them, not pressuring them. That's something else I do is like in my text, I'll say, no pressure, you know, like I don't use the language of like, come get a free, you know, analysis for your, estimate for your home on blah, blah, like I use language that is very, every day is not real estate language when I'm talking to sellers and that sort of thing. And I try to, use language that's like no pressure, whenever you're ready, that kind of thing. And and they really respect that. I had a lady yesterday, it was like, I'm definitely going to call you because of the way that you just handled the situation. So I like that. Right. Um, let's see, referencing context instead of repeating asks. So that's where I would say my business really is, um, where it thrives and where our bread and butter is the context. If I don't have a specific purpose to call, and I'm not saying other people don't, but I'm saying like I need a reason to call and say it's not just are you ready to buy or sell. I'm That's why I'm not a cold caller. I'm not a FISBO caller or anything like that. I know those are reasons to call, but I mean like if I have a reason like did you receive what you requested? And that is my difference between Heather and I, which was this would have been a cool conversation and we'll probably do it again because she's better. I'm sure she has a much different perspective than mine. And the big takeaway here, follow up isn't going to be about closing things faster. It's about earning their safety, their trust, and clarifying things so that they have clarity about where you're coming from and how you can help them. So silence doesn't mean stop. It just means adjust. It means, focus on value, focus on giving them the curiosity factor, giving them faming whatever hesitation they might have, right? So this week, I hope you'll pay attention to how your follow-up calls and texts and all that sort of thing feel, and not just how often you're doing it. Like try to really sink yourself into and put yourself in the shoes of the people that you are following up with and think about how you would feel outside of a sales perspective. Like don't think about how you would feel as the salesperson, but how would you feel as an average person that's getting these calls and texts? And then if it feels fully authentic, that's where you really build on the know, like, and trust factor and kit and work it from there. So hopefully this was all very helpful info. My name is Sara Delansig. This has been the F word, follow up trends for real estate. And I hope that was helpful. You guys follow me online for social, more of this and recordings on YouTube. Thanks so much. Bye.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.